Hi everyone. So I guess everyone is doing fine. So let's start with the lecture. So our lecture is on software development lifecycle, that is SDLC. And so what is SDLC? SDLC can be defined as a step-by-step manner of developing a software. Suppose if you are developing a software, there are few steps that needs to be followed to develop a good quality software application. Now this SDLC is defined as a popular practice that is followed by most of the organizations for developing a good quality software application. In other words, it serves as a foundation for developing good quality software application. And SDLC acts as a framework that holds some specific tasks that needs to be achieved at every phase. So let's see these phases in detail. So we have the phases of SDLC. First one is the requirement gathering, second comes the analysis, third comes the design phase, fourth comes the development, also called as coding phase, fifth comes the testing phase, sixth comes the deployment, last one is operations and maintenance. So let's see these phases in detail. Okay, so first one is requirement analysis. Over here, the business requirements are gathered in this phase. During this phase, meetings with project managers and stakeholders are held to discuss the requirements. Now, the stakeholder is a person or a group of people who are directly or indirectly involved in the project. So, example could be like executives, could be customers and like managers, etc. So, those comes under the category of stakeholder. Now, following questions are raised during this phase, like who will use the system, what the system should do, what should be the input and output of the system, and how the system should work, like that. Now, the questions aren't limited to this. There are a lot of questions that are raised in this phase. So, the requirements are analyzed and documented in the form of SRS, that stands for Software Requirement Specification. Now, this SRS is defined as official documentation that tells what the software should do, what should be the hardware and software requirements, like that. So that all comes under this SRS. And the requirements are of two types: functional requirements and non-functional requirements. Now, this functional requirement of the system are those requirements of the system that tell what the system should do and what the system should not do. Suppose if you are filling up a registration form for a website, once you are done with the registration, you will get an acknowledgement saying that the registration is successful. So that comes under the functional requirement of the system. Non-functional requirement of the system are those requirements of the system that tell how the system should behave and under what constraint. Suppose if there is a website, and as we know, a website consists of lot of web pages, and each web page has a loading time, say 5 second or 6 second. Now this 5 second and 6 second is called as a non-functional requirement of the system. It tells the system on how the system should behave and under what constraint. Now the constraint over here is 5 second and 6 second, that is a duration. So the end user requirements from the customer and other stakeholder like salespeople and all, these are gathered by using the following techniques: by conducting workshops, by conducting interviews, by conducting surveys and questionnaires, like that. So coming to analysis phase, the requirements, this phase involves the following steps: eliciting requirements, analyzing requirements, requirement modeling, review and retrospective. Now coming to eliciting requirements, over here it can be defined as a process of communicating the requirements with the stakeholders and customers regarding their expectations on how the system should work. Now basically there is a communication between the software developers and the customers over here. So that is in this phase. Then comes the analyzing requirements. Over here, this step determines the nature of the requirements. Now, whether the requirements which is collected, it is clear, it is complete, like that. Then comes the requirement modeling. Over here, the requirements, whatever it is collected, it is usually documented in the form of diagrams like use cases, user stories, and all. Now, this use cases is and a diagram. It is used to interpret the working of the system, and it is mostly helpful for those people who are not technically sound, like customers and like that. So, it serves as a communication between the developers and the customers, like that. And then comes a review and retrospective. Over here in this phase, previous iterations of the requirements, whatever the requirements are there, they are again analyzed and further worked, like if there are any improvement which is expected, like that. So that is included in this phase. Then comes the design phase. Over here is like whatever the SRS which are collected, it is translated in the form of diagrams like use case and all. So as I said before, it's like the diagrams like use case diagram, activity diagram, sequence diagram and all. So these are all various UML diagrams that are used to interpret the working of the system. Now, as we know, there are 14 UML diagrams, 1 4, that covers all these diagrams. And then we have the data flow diagrams, that is DFT. It shows the flow of data between the several components of the system, like that. So now I will hold a separate session for this diagrams and all. So till then, just stay tuned. And we have the development phase over here. The design documents are translated from the design phase into the actual coding. So over here, this is where the actual work starts. The software developers work on this phase. It's like it consists of the following phases. We have building the technical architecture, then building the database, connecting that database to the technical architecture and all, like that. Let's make it simple. Suppose if you have come across any Android application, it's very common as we know. So have you ever wondered how that Android application has been developed like that? No. Okay. So basically, an IDE, that is Integrated Development Environment, Android Studio, is used to develop such Android applications like that. So there are various applications. It all depends upon the requirement. Then we have the testing phase. So during this stage, the software is tested whether it is complete as per the requirements of the client, like that. So there are few forms of testing like unit testing, system testing, integration testing. So I'll cover all these testing phases in separate session. Then we have deployment phase. Over here, the once the product is tested, it is deployed in the production environment, or I can say user acceptance testing is performed. Now, the user acceptance testing is basically over here a replica, or I can say an artifact is developed, and the customer along with the developer tests the artifact whether the artifact is perfect or not. So, suppose if the customer finds the product to be perfect, then the sign off is provided by the customer. And now this UAT is basically, there are forms of UAT. We have this alpha testing, beta testing. So alpha testing is where the software product is tested at the developer side by the developers, whereas beta testing is performed by the real users in the real environment. So that is a basic difference between the alpha testing and beta testing. Then we have operations and maintenance. So once the product is tested and it is ready to be deployed, it is formally in the it is formally deployed in the appropriate market. Now over here, basically, technical support is provided to the customers who will be using the product. So as we know, customer is a king and quality is a key. So like quality has to be maintained, right? So that is where this operations and maintenance phase comes into picture. So now this SDLC models I will be covering in the next phase or the next session. So till then, just stay tuned, and should there be any queries, feel free to post your queries over the comment section below. And till then, do like, share and subscribe for more upcoming videos. And till then, just take care and stay home, stay safe. Bye. Thank you.